Now, there are usually two times that you will fire somebody, which is right away when they've joined your organization or over time. It's important that you understand the difference between these two because I've seen many organizations focus too much on one side or the other and it kills their performance. You have to have a healthy amount of both. So let's start with the right away fires. When to fire somebody right away? Well, you should fire somebody right away if you just get that gut feeling that they're not going to fit in. There's a couple things that I look for in somebody that usually leads me to the decision to fire them right away. I recently did a hiring round, which was a reaffirmation of this because we brought 3 people and had to drop one of them immediately. And the things I look for is, are they proactively hitting their ramping targets? Are they logging to the CRM, making dials, getting busy, and trying to make cash? Are they involved in the team meetings and being an active player or communicating in the Slack channels, encouraging other people that maybe they do or don't know already? Are they making an effort to make themselves valuable? In my experience, very rarely have there been salespeople that I brought in who have stayed quiet succeeded in the long term. The best salespeople I've hired will come in, introduce themselves to other people, react and celebrate other people's wins, and more importantly, ask me 1,000,001 questions about things that they should do, even the most minute things. And I'll also see it reflect in their work, where in the CRM, they'll be putting in dials, they're being proactive. Maybe they haven't been put on the inbound calendar yet, but they're making those dials and putting appointments on their calendar. Or heck, maybe banging out mock calls and sending me recordings to see something that they did with a colleague of theirs off hours to see if they're doing it well. That is the spirit of someone who will succeed. There was somebody that I hired recently who I brought into the organization who stayed quiet, didn't ask any questions, didn't hit any of the onboarding targets, and was curious as to why they got let go. The work that they did do was very clear that they were kind of lowballing or low efforting it because there was no result to show for it. They were making dials through the CRM but put through no appointments and had coincidentally a 0 talk time. Those are things that if you're a salesperson watching this, know that as managers, we're not dumb. We see that stuff. So take your performance to heart and don't just move the number of the CRM, move the numbers on the leaderboard. Okay, now let's talk about the 3 things to look for when you're firing somebody over time. The first one is going to be their performance is flat or not improving. The second is going to be they have a limiting belief around their income. Or the third is that they fail to hit any of their ramping targets, which usually you'll see sooner and you should fire them immediately. Now let's talk about the difference between these two. Their performance staying flat. Unless they're staying flat at exactly the KPI to make your company money and what they were hired to do, that's the time you keep them. But if they're staying flat in kind of that B to C zone, maybe the cash target they were hired for is 100K and they're consistently sitting at that 75 or 90K, maybe they crossed 100 once or twice and it's not costing you a ton of money, but it's not making you a ton of money either. Those are people you should fire. Fire for the sake of banking or betting on somebody that could be better. And the reason being is that it's mediocrity. And mediocrity doesn't get anybody anywhere. They're not really pushing the mold. They're not hitting exactly what's expected of them. They're doing enough to survive. And I don't want people to just survive on my sales team. I want people that are there to thrive, to flourish, because that's what actually moves the top line. You have to look at what's actually going to grow the business. The person that's going out there trying to collect more cash than the month prior and contribute to the company's growth, or the person that's just trying to ride the company's existence and have a form of stability. Now, I understand it. Maybe the salesperson needs to take time off and is reducing their hours because they have travel or family stuff. That's okay if it's requested. But if you're seeing a 3-month trend of them just staying stagnant nor making a super proactive activity to get better or investing in their coaching or showing any positive signs, drop them. The second thing to look for over time is limiting beliefs around income. You'll find salespeople that have limits in the amount of cash that they will collect and then they will flatline, not because their performance is stagnant, but they just have a limiting belief around their income. I had a salesperson on my team who would close roughly $25,000 in cash spectacularly. The call recordings were amazing. The articulation was there. The fight was there. But once they crossed that $25,000 in cash threshold, they would ease up. And miraculously, everybody became a bad fit, no offer. Show rates tanked and cash just stopped coming in. And I could see it clear as day. After 2 months of seeing this pattern, it's clear this person had a limit around the amount of money they needed to survive or were comfortable with. They would make enough to pay their rent, hit their immediate needs, and then just take their foot off the gas, despite how many calls I put on the calendar. Now, the difference between the person who's coasting versus the person who has the limiting belief in their income is their calls, and also the way it looks in their tracker. The person who has a limiting belief around their income, what you will see is a pretty perfect set of sales happening all the way up until they hit a certain cash threshold, and the bottom part of their tracker just sucks. Maybe the threshold is 8K, 2.5K. I had 2 reps I had to let go of that definitely had this. One was at 2.5K, the other one was at roughly 6.5, 7,000 a month. Where once more, their performance was spectacular, up to 7,000 a month, and then after that, everything fell off a cliff. And the month would start fresh and they would do great again. But I could see it in their calls that they had the skills, they had the articulation. If I did a one-on-one and challenged them, they had the words for it. The person who's stagnant over time, if you do a one-on-one with them, you just might not see the words are there. You'll see their tracker will look kind of scattered, and it's a pattern across everything, not just a pattern for one segment. Now, the third type of person to let go is the person who shows a negative ramping trajectory or never hits their ramping targets. And this is one of the other salespeople I had to let go. There was somebody that I brought in the team whose first month was great, second month was worse, and third was worse than the month prior. And that was someone I had to let go. Now, what was more disappointing is that we put more calls on the calendar, and this person also went all in on the business and gave us more time, yet his performance went down. And whether it was partly us to blame in lead quality or partly them to blame, in the game of sales, there's little to no excuses. A top producer could have made money with those leads compared to them. In the game of sales, you can't have excuses because, once more, what you tolerate is the things that you'll be hammered with. And for me and my sales teams, I only tolerate individuals that are driving to become the best and every month be better than the one prior. And so unfortunately, I had to let that rep go. But so once more, bringing this point home, there's 2 times to fire somebody: right away and over time. Right away, it's going to see they're not being proactive, not fitting into the team, not being valuable. And over time is going to come from a flatline in their production, a limiting belief in their income, or failing to hit any of their ramping KPIs whatsoever. And if they fail to hit any of their ramping KPIs, well, you'll probably see that in the fall in the first category, and you'll trim them anyways.